Hello, Jyoti. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for your time indeed. When we look at all the issues, I know time is of the essence, but at the same time, we look at, okay, can we really define your priorities a little bit in terms of the downtown revitalization plan or the greater downtown plan as per the technical term on record? You have listed so many priorities, but what does it really mean if you are to start? Where would you like to start, or in the bigger scheme of things?
The downtown revitalization strategy that council approved earlier this year is pretty comprehensive. And the reason that I was in support of it is because it's a process that started in 2014, actually. So it's been a long time coming. Back in those days, I was with the Haskayne School of Business, and I worked a lot with the commercial real estate sector and the folks at Calgary Economic Development. And everyone was of the same opinion that we really needed to do something different in our buildings, that we couldn't continue to just keep having office spaces. That if you looked at other cities that were successful, their downtown and their buildings have a number of different types of uses in there. So it became the mission to try to reactivate downtown by ensuring that you could have quality of life there throughout the day. So I'll give you an example of, a family that is going to drop off the kids at childcare, drop off their pet for pet care, walk a couple of more blocks to get to the office. At lunchtime, you can go and get your teeth cleaned in the same building. You can go to the dry cleaner downstairs. That's the type of thing we need to do to have multiple uses in downtown and within buildings.
So we're looking at different persona for sure. When we look at downtown, usually let's say I'm talking to my communities or people of this segment in particular, they have the experience of living in a compact home, small, high density, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Beijing, whatnot. When they come here, maybe they have the tendency to say, okay, well, let's get something more comfy, and we kind of choose the suburb. How would you entice, how would you make sure that the definition of greater downtown plan is more than just living? And what does it mean to newcomers in particular in this case?
Well, let's look at newcomers and look at people that live in this city. And I'll use myself as an example. So I have lived in a community in North Central Calgary since I moved here. At the time, that was where I could afford to buy a house. And over time, everything that you need is located in that community. But, once my child has grown out of the house and it's just my husband and I left, I would be very interested in coming downtown so I can have that type of compact living arrangement. So I think we sometimes forget that when people become empty nesters, so to speak, they do sometimes wish to move away from the community that they built their family in and move to something that's a little bit different, something more metropolitan, if you will. And when it comes to newcomers, I think we need to remember that, as you mentioned, there are other places in the world where it is quite common for people to be living downtown in a very dense environment. And we're also trying to attract a lot of talent here. And people that we're trying to attract here are saying, look, I want to have a meaningful job. I want to be able to live and work in the same place. I want to have all of the amenities I need. And to do that, you need to change the way you think about your downtown. And I want it to be active at all times of the day. I want to be able to catch a show and go to a restaurant. So we have to look at the way people want to engage with our downtown spaces if we're going to get this right.
In your priority on your website, you have listed quite a few things. Wouldn't say a laundry list, but there are enough significant potential involvement, dialogues, negotiations as well. Where do you want to start? Social resilience, climate, environmental, bringing downtown to life, dealing with homelessness, safety, transportation, whatnot, and where do you want to go just to hone into the greater downtown plan?
Yeah, for sure. Let's look at it as a resilience plan. So I believe that our recovery is going to need resilience. And to be resilient, we need to be able to look at economic, social, and environmental resilience and how they fit together. So I'm very interested from an economic point of view to ensure that Calgary is seen as a center of excellence in a transitioning economy, one that's solutions-based. So I'm very interested in inviting people to come here and use innovation and technology to come up with more sustainable, greener, and cleaner solutions that work across business sectors. And from social resilience perspective, let's make sure we're taking care of people who are in positions of vulnerability, people that are experiencing homelessness, people that are struggling with mental health and addictions. let's make sure the right supports are in place to get them back on their feet, because ultimately your economy is only as strong as your labor force. So we have to make sure we're looking after our people. And that third pillar of the environment, it's important to recognize that we are in a crisis situation, and Calgary could be a leader in coming up with ways that are cleaner for energy production. We could be a leader in making sure that we retrofit our buildings, that we electrify our fleets as a municipal government. We have the opportunity to do all of these things, but we must stay focused on that triple bottom line for resilience.
What is the key difference between now and then in terms of financial stewardship? Now you come with a lot of leadership and background as well, but with all of these priorities, we gotta start somewhere with money and negotiations and new faces, many new faces in the next council. How are you going to deal with this dynamic and, the cut and dry numbers and the dynamic of personality?
I'm incredibly optimistic that we are going to be electing people that have a desire to move the city forward and do some great work on behalf of Calgarians. So it'll be, my job on October the 19th to pick up the phone, congratulate the other 14 winners and find out why they did this. Why did they choose to enter public service at this time? And then ask them, what can I do to help you be successful? I think that's how relationship building starts. I'm also very excited that we will have an executive committee of council, which will be like a cabinet, if you will. I'm interested to see what skill sets my colleagues are going to bring and what relationships they have within the private sector and other orders of government, so we can best leverage everyone's talents, because that's the key to being successful. You have a number of people pulling in the same direction, and there's lots of hard work being done by multiple people. So I'm actually quite optimistic.
Jyoti, my last question is the Greater Downtown Plan the savior of Calgary for many Calgarians? And if so, how realistic is that in your opinion?
The Greater Downtown Plan will allow us to strengthen our tax base. So I think that's something that's really important for Calgarians to understand. Those downtown properties are worth so much, and they were generating such a big proportion of our revenue to pay for the services that we need. That's why it's important to focus on downtown. Sometimes people say, why aren't you focused on my communities? We're focused on the city overall. But when your greatest revenue opportunity comes from downtown, we have to have a plan. I don't think there is a single solution to recovery. I think we would be dreaming if it was that simple. But I can tell you that once we started investing in ourselves and demonstrating to the world that we think Calgary is going to be okay, we have already started to see capital flow to our city. So I think we must be positive about what we can do into the future. And that's the way you fill those vacancies and strengthen our economy again.
Last 20 seconds, anything I missed you want to add on?
No, it's just been such a pleasure to talk to Calgarians, and I can tell you that people are very interested in a positive and progressive future. They have hope for our city, and I'm interested in being the leader that walks with them towards that opportunity and prosperity.
It is Jyoti Gondek, one of the mayoral candidates in this 2021 Calgary general election. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.